Not one, but two humans on today's Old Man Squad episode. Two very old humans. But I do need to start by reminding everyone it's not about us. We just happen to be old. It's about teams we draft. Welcome to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball, everyone. I said on this last show I recorded that I was going to change my opening, and here's my first shot at it. Welcome to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball, everyone. The show that will simplify fantasy basketball for you and literally nothing else. I'm Dan Vespers. I am joined today by fellow old person Adam King, who's been fighting a virus for the better part of about 5 weeks. That's some true old man crap you're pulling over there. You're smiling, so I guess you're feeling a little bit better.
I am feeling better. Back at work, sort of life is back to, well, I don't think there is a normal, but life is pretty good. Other than having to get up in the middle of the night to void my bladder. But
I feel like we may need context on that story. We're going to be getting you Kingy's 5 favorite targets, but what he's referring to is that at some insane hour in the middle of the night on your end, you sent me a Slack message confirming that you were good for today's show, which it's 1:45 my time right now. Is it like 7:45 for you?
No, 6:45.
6:45. It's even earlier. So let's see. You sent me that message 3 or 4 hours ago. Yeah. So
it was about 3:30 in the morning.
Okay. I just responded with, "What are you doing awake? What's wrong with you?"
I wasn't awake for long.
I was hustling into a dermatologist. Just long enough to pee and make sure Dan didn't have like a kid getting sick and have to cancel. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is your first of many opportunities to hit like and subscribe. Hopefully you like our punums. We'll go Yiddish for you at the beginning of today's show, and that will get you to click those buttons. It's actually, I screw around a lot, but like that's the way that we grow this thing. So please do that. Thank you to everybody that's already done it. Adam has not shared with me any of the 5 names he's about to talk about. I've been so lost in the clouds of childcare lately that I don't even know what other analysts are talking about right now. I only know what I've been screaming into the void. So, Kingy, the steering wheel on the boat, as I've said for many years, belongs to you, Captain. Where you want to go first?
All right. Let's start with did a show with Matty G yesterday talking about my guys, and there was a range of analysts who were part of that. Let's start with the guy that I talked about, and that's Mark Williams. Mark Williams of the Phoenix Suns. For those who aren't aware that he was traded eventually, not to the Lakers but to the Suns. I just think injuries aside and phantom injuries and whatever we want to call it, I think, and I've based sort of all my guys on ADPs. So these are guys I think you can get at value. I'm not going to say Wemby is my guy because you'd have to take him at 1 or 2 anyway. But Mark Williams' current ADP is in the 80s, I believe. Let me just
93, by the way.
Okay.
Is his pre-rank? Sorry, that's his pre-rank. It's not
pre-rank. Okay, pre-rank. So Yahoo ADP is 86. Fantrax 75. So he's available in whatever round that is. It's too early for me to do the math. But look, I see no reason he can't be a top 50 player this season. He was a top 50 player last year in about 27 minutes a game. He is the starting center. He is, as we know, he's better than Nick Richards. We've had a big sample size of those two playing together. And then Carmen Malawach is there. He's intriguing, but Mark Williams, I think they went out and they got him. And I think he could up his numbers from last year. So you're looking at a guy that could get you maybe 16 and 11 with 1.2, 1.3 blocks, 0.8 steals. Doesn't hurt you from the free throw line. I think that's just something to
love that.
People probably aren't aware with him, but he's an 80% free throw guy. And I just think this Phoenix team is, I know they lost Kevin Durant. I know they lost Bradley Beal. I actually think that, I mean, it hurts them in terms of talent, overall talent, but it just gives Devin Booker the team back, I suppose. It is his team now. Mark Williams loves to run the floor. So look, I just think Mark Williams is someone that if you're looking for a center in that 50 to 60, even 70 range, he makes sense.
So I'm mostly going to agree with you, but then I have to ask you the question that I know the viewers are going to want as the follow-up. Point of reference, some of the stuff that Kingy's talking about, down the stretch last year, Mark Williams played about 29 minutes a game, final 10, 11, 12 games of the year. He was at 14 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, pretty good passer actually out of the center spot. 2.1 combined defensive stats, 63-88 were the splits. Like he was a beast at the foul line during that stretch. And that was good enough for third round value. But the big but, he had a trade voided due to physical concerns. He's missed a lot of action. And just so people don't think that I'm like blowing smoke here, I'll share this is my own Google sheet that I work off of. It's free. It's in all the show descriptions. You can all click into it. You can see I've green highlighted Mark Williams at 93 on that page. So like, I like him, but we'd be remiss if we weren't a little bit afraid, right? I mean, he's missed a lot of time in 3 seasons. I mean, there's I'll flip back over here to the Mark Williams page. There's the games played, 43, 19, and 44. I mean, that's like, he almost made it through a college season in one of those years. But those are pretty bad numbers for games played out of 82.
Yes, yeah, and that is a concern, and that is why his ADP is where it is, because people are hesitant. It's not even like he's played 63 games. Like he's in the 40s for 2 of those 3 years, and then under 20. So, look, I do think, he's part of that Charlotte, possibly, probably. I don't know the answer to that question, but I think playing for Phoenix, a team that hopefully knows what they're doing, they will likely still manage him. So I'm not saying he's going to come out and play 33 minutes a night or anything like that. I think they'll be somewhat cautious. So he probably tops out at 30 minutes. So yes, there is an element of risk, but like I said, I think if you can get him in at pick 60, pick 70, you're deep enough into your draft that you can start taking some risks. And his floor for me, even if he plays 55 games, I think if you can get him in the 60s, is almost worth it. So yes, I'm fully aware of that risk, but I tend to be a little risk. What's the word? I'm not risk averse. The opposite to that.
Yeah,
I don't know what that is.
When you started with risk, I didn't know where to go. You're sort of you're pro risk, I think.
Pro risk,
yeah. You're a proponent of risk. Well, I mean, and I should, so like everybody that's been watching this show knows, I just had Mark Williams on my Breakouts episode. I think he's a massive value. I fully agree with you here. And the sort of the icing or the it's really more like a caulking gun. Like we're filling in the cracks. The cracks on Mark Williams being the risk stuff is you're able to get him late enough where you can draft safe-ish guys for 5 rounds, 6 rounds, or whatever. So if he does have one of those clunker seasons, he's not your first center that you've drafted. He's your second center. You hope someone that your team could kind of survive without for a little bit. And that's when you're late enough in a draft where you can start to think about taking the guy who might miss part of the season. That's player number 1. I forgot to mention at the outset that this show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook, proud presenting sponsor of everything at the Believe Network and here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Mr. King, where shall we go for player number 2?
Look, well, let's stay with the centers and the Google Doc you just pulled up. Actually, I saw a couple of names on that sheet that are on my list today.
Over. Here's the doc.
I believe I saw him there. I did see him just slightly up from Mark Williams. Jakob Poeltl.
Also green on my board there.
Also green on your board, yes. Poeltl, I mean, it's almost rinse and repeat what I said for Mark Williams. You say for Jakob Poeltl. The injury risk is probably not there. It's not as high. The missed games, there's a little bit of a risk because we don't really know what Toronto is doing. But he's another guy that, look, last year he was a top 50 player without sort of doing anything too outlandish. He is the starting center. I mean, they've invested in him, whether it makes sense or not. They've given him a big contract. So, yeah, I just think he, again, makes perfect sense as if you miss out on a center in the first 2 rounds and you're sort of chasing some stats when you get into the fifth round. If Jakob Pertl's sitting there, I don't see any reason why he can't do put up numbers pretty similar to last year. And he was the 43rd ranked player in 9-cat, 14.5 points, 9.5 rebounds, 2.4 defensive stats, 2.8 assists. He's another one of those quietly positive passing centers. So he'll get you some assists, 0 threes. So don't worry about that. The free throws for me are the question because his career, he's been pretty bad from the free throw line. He was 67% last year, which was a career best by quite a bit.
Yeah.
But if you look at his numbers over the final 3 months of last year, he was at 78%. So is that something he can build on? Maybe he can push up to be 70%, which is still not a positive, but it's not a huge negative because he doesn't get to the line a whole lot. So, yeah, I think he's just a really nice center target. Again, in that range, in that 6th round, 7th round even, who, again, plays 60 games. His floor is probably top 45, top 50.
Yeah, and I'm of the mindset. I'm wondering where you stand on this as well. Do you think the Raptors are going to tank again this year? I think they're going to try to win this season. They got Brandon Ingram going, and the rest of the guys are healthy coming in. They sort of have no real. I mean, last year I don't think they were dead set on tanking. Although Jakob Pertl was the one who said during the preseason, like, "Well, we don't think we're going to try to win every ball game." But I mean, they had their throwaway year, quickly missed half the season, and Barnes missed 20 games, and Barrett missed 25 games, and Pertl missed 25 games. I feel like that was kind of it. But, I mean, maybe there's something going on that you see that I don't, but it feels like they should try to win this year.
I think they will, at least initially. I think if their starting five is quite talented. It's a funny mix of players, but they're all good players. They've got some depth now because of last season, and we've seen this with other teams. Because of last season and the injuries, they actually had to blood some young guys and give them playing time that they probably weren't planning on giving them. So those guys like Grady Dick basically played a full season as a starter. So him coming off the bench as a 6th man now, he's a proven scorer. They've got Jonathan Mobo, who I thought had a reasonably good season. Jamal Shed. So there's guys there now that can step in and have proven that they can hang with the NBA. And yeah, it makes sense for them to come out and try and just hope that they can stay healthy.
Yeah, I can't fight with you on this one. I don't really have like with Mark Williams, you're worried about the body, the physical, but it did feel like basically all of the time off that Pertl got last year was by design. And looking at the game log for him, when he's been on teams that have been trying to compete, he's generally been well enough to play for them. So, like, excluding the last 2 years in Toronto, the year before that, he had the split season, 72 out of 82 games. The year before that, 68 out of 82. Not great, not horrible. The 2 COVID years, he missed 3 games and 6 games. That's pretty stinking good considering everybody was out for half that year. And then you go all the way back towards the beginning of his career. His minutes weren't as high, but he pretty much played every day. So to me, I don't think there's quite the same fear. I don't know if there's quite the same sting as a Mark Williams fastball, because you might get like a 24-12 big percentages game out of Mark Williams, where with Pertl, now that everybody's healthy for the Raptors, the 16 to 20 scoring nights are probably going to be a bit more spaced out. I mean, he was taking 10 shots a game this year after not really getting close to that, but for one other time in his career. But I don't care. Give me 8.5 shot Jakob Pertl. He doesn't take that big of a hit because offense is not really his jam anyway. So Mark Williams probably the slightly higher per game potential, but the Pertl side is just, mitigating risk is sort of has crept into my lexicon a bit more this year after all the crazy stuff we've seen the last couple seasons. So between the two, I probably lean slightly to Pertl. It sounds like you lean more towards Mark, but maybe I'm misreading the situation.
No, I think that's fair. I think, as I said, I don't mind taking a little bit of risk there. And it would probably depend a little bit on my build. Obviously, neither of them are going to hit threes, but if I'm punting free throws, maybe I'll just go Pirtle slightly because I think he has a little bit more defensive upside. Uh, if free throws are a concern and I'm looking at improving that category, then I probably go Mark Williams just because I think Pirtle has made some improvements from the line, but not to the point where he's an 80% free throw shooter.
Yeah. By the way, I'm not surprised that this is an area that you're looking at too. There are a bunch of really intriguing centers between 90 and 110. Curious, however, where you'd like to take us next on this little adventure.
Let's go to Chicago. Let's go with Matas Buzelis, whose current ADP is. That's a good question.
Pretty far down the board.
Yeah, I think it might be. Where is
Farther
he?
than you'd expect.
Let me find him in
Yeah,
my list.
figure out where that went.
Buzelis. Okay, so he's in the hundreds. Yahoo 102, Fantrax 108. Now, I can almost guarantee that will change over the next month because I know a number of analysts are relatively high on him. So I think once we get into October, his ADP probably pushes into the 80s, which I still think is potentially good value for Buzelis. He was very good down the stretch last year. If we look at his numbers over the last, I don't know how, even the last month, which is a decent sample size, 16 games he played, 14 points, 5 rebounds. It doesn't really get many assists, 1.3 blocks, 2.3 threes, 50% from the field and 76 from the line. So, yeah, look, I just think that I talked about this with Matty G on his show yesterday. You can get him in, as I said, in the hundreds at the moment, reach into the 80s to take him because I think if everything goes well for him this season, I think his ceiling is probably top 40. I just don't think he hurts you other than the assists. He doesn't really hurt you anywhere. He's efficient. He hits threes. He's a decent rebounder, good defender, makes his free throws. So best case, top 40. I'm not saying he's going to be a top 40. And he also plays for Chicago. So we can't dismiss the fact that he plays for the Bulls, who are known for their questionable decision-making. I'm hoping that the Bulls have sort of picked a direction here with the re-signing of Josh Giddey, finally last year moving Buzelis into that starting lineup. Vooch is the one that we don't know where he fits and what they're going to do with him. But outside of that, I think they've got a nice young core now. So I'm absolutely okay with taking Buzelis in the 80s, even the 70s. That's probably eliminating a lot of the value. But as I said, best case scenario, I think he could be a 4th round player this season.
I'll play a little devil's advocate, although I like Buzelis as well. He shot 53% down the stretch last year when basically the entire Chicago Bulls were shooting the lights out. I've left some of those these are late season numbers for the Bulls I've put up on the screen for YouTubers. Are you at all concerned that some of that comes back down to earth and then other stuff kind of drops with it? Because the first half of the season, he was shooting more like 43, 44%. And then he had that lava hot stretch down towards the end of the year. And I'll admit, I don't know the young guys as well as everybody else. It's right there in the name of the YouTube page. But is there fear that a little bit of the end of season stuff was a mirage, or do you feel like enough is going to get kind of pushed his way this coming season that doesn't even really matter?
I think it probably comes down a bit. Like you can see on the screen there, he was up near 53%. I don't think he's going to be 53, but I think he could be 50% from the field, which for a guy that is giving you 2.5, 2 threes a game is certainly not terrible. And look, I just think they figured things out a little bit. I thought, as we know, Josh Giddey was phenomenal down the stretch last year. Trey Jones, sorry, not Johnson. was there as well. I thought he played well. Io DeSunmu is still there. So they've got guys that can find Buzelis in the right spots. Patrick Williams is hopefully not there. And like I said, I just think they've built a decent young core, and Buzelis fits in really nicely. So yes, I do think he comes back to earth a little bit, but I still think there's a really intriguing ceiling there for him.
The price. This is interesting. I haven't done this before, but I'm gonna try to find something. The price on the Chicago Bulls winning, what do we got here? 30 or more games. If you think they clear 30 wins, you can get that over at FanDuel Sports at -172. That's a different way to look at it. And they've set it up a few different ways because their season win total is at 31.5, with money seemingly coming in on the under. It's a tough one, man, because the East is such a clunk fest this year that if you think these young guys can actually play well to start the season, the way they did at the end of last year, that's a team that could surprise you and be slightly better. Not, super competitive or anything, but Buzelis, a potential large part of that. Kingy, to number 4. I know you got 5, and I'm hunting for. Everybody knows I'm watching the clock to try to make my shows close to a half hour, and then we usually go longer than that. Where's number 4 going to be on the old borderoo?
So number 4 was actually the guy I wanted to talk about on Matty G's show, but he was already taken by our colleague Noah, who had submitted his guy before me, so I had to change it up. And that's Asar Thompson from the Detroit Pistons, another guy whose ADP and projected rank don't really line up, which is a good thing for fantasy managers. His current ADP is in the 90s, so he's sitting at 97 on Yahoo, 93 on Fantrax. And it just makes sense for me because we have the game plan here because we saw what Amen did last year. Amen Thompson was someone that I actively targeted, and he was, to be fair, he was better than I thought he would be. Now, I'm not saying Asar is going to repeat what Amen did. They are different players, but their skill sets are pretty similar. I think Amen has higher upside in terms of passing, but everything else is pretty similar. Both efficient scorers, not going to score in high volume, but Asar, I think, actually has more defensive upside than Amen. I think he could be sort of sitting at he probably doesn't get to maybe he gets to 3 combined steals and blocks.
He was there down the stretch last year.
Yeah, he'll be up there. The one question, I think if he starts and plays 30 minutes a night, he's probably a top 50 player just because of the defensive stuff, the efficiency, the rebounding is above average again for a wing / guard. The question is health, because he has had some health issues with the blood clots. And people will say last year he was slow to come back, and then his role sort of flip-flopped a bit. I think that was probably all connected. I think he really didn't get a preseason at all because he wasn't allowed to do anything. So he was thrown back in, and that first month of the season was his preseason, or the first month that he played. Right. I just think with a full off-season training camp, all of that, the Pistons are positioned to be a top 4 team in the East. I would say most people would agree with that. And he's just a key piece of that. So I'm hoping that they do lean into him a little bit more, show some faith. Tobias Harris is still there, but Asar is the guy they need on the floor. So I think, again, ADP in the 90s, it's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, and so far you've picked 4 names that all have been color-coded green on that that Google sheet.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I'm having trouble playing devil's advocate as best I can.
Well, wait till my next one, because you will not be able to play devil's advocate on that.
Oh, you're going with someone who's straight up in my wheelhouse?
I think so.
Oh, man. All right, so here's my best effort to play devil's advocate on Asar Thompson, because I think he's going to be, to me, he's one of the preeminent sleeper breakout names. For good reason, like you said, because we've seen the outline of it, and we got to see more than the outline, a little bit of shaded in, when Tobias Harris missed some time down the stretch last year and Thompson's minutes cranked up. Here's my devil's advocate moment. The Pistons lost Malik Beasley to free agency / investigation. They lost Tim Hardaway Jr., which maybe was by design because he's not very good, but they lost him one way or the other. They brought in Duncan Robinson, who sort of replaces one of those two outside shooters. This is a team that, as good as they were last year, and they did a lot of their damage with toughness, they are severely lacking in floor spacing again, which was a problem they had 2 years ago before they had this sort of breakout year. Does the presence of Asar Thompson, does that worry you in that they're now kind of replacing, not that like Tobias Harris can shoot, but at least he can make a three-pointer? Are we going to see a team that can't give Asar Thompson 27, 28, 29 minutes because they just simply can't play Jalen Duren next to Asar Thompson, next to Tobias Harris, next to Jaden Ivey, next to Cade Cunningham, because none of these guys is that good at shooting the three ball? Does that worry you in any way? Or I'll give you the out on, here's the out clause, the off ramp on this. We're talking about a guy who's going in the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th rounds. Are we in that territory of who gives a crap if he doesn't get to play as much as we think? The upside is so intensely high, you must take that shot.
Yeah, look, a little bit of both. I think, yeah, if he doesn't hit that minutes sort of cap that we'd like to see, I think he still does enough in other categories to probably return value. Yeah, it would be a little bit disappointing. He wouldn't be hitting what we see as his ceiling. In terms of the threes, look, I'm not too worried about it because, as you mentioned, they did lose a couple of guys. They brought in Duncan Robinson. They also are all, in some respects, they're bringing in Jaden Ivey because he didn't play a lot of last season. He's not, by any means, an elite three-point shooter, but he'll give you 2 a game. They have Karis LeVert there as well, who, again, not a super high three-point shooter, but he can space the floor. And I just think some of their young guys, like I think Ron Holland, will step up a little bit this season. So yeah, look.
But does that hurt Asar Thompson's chances to get to that mark we want him to get to?
In some respects, it might. In others, I just think it means that they can put shooters around him. That they have some more options. Jalen Duren, I suppose, is another piece of that puzzle because he is a center that doesn't hit a lot of threes. So I think it is, but I think their brand is that maybe they don't need to be an elite three-point shooting team. They get to the basket. Jalen Duren scores around the basket. Asar can do that. Cade is very good at getting to the basket. So, yeah, look, it's certainly a factor, but it wouldn't deter me too much. And again, if we're not taking him at pick 40, you're taking him at pick 80 right, or pick 90. So there's it eliminates a lot of that risk, I think.
How'd I do? Was that pretty good devil's advocate?
Very good.
Thank you. I appreciate that vote of confidence. All right, who's this 5th player that I have to imagine is some old fart? If the way you're talking about him, you're ready to get my heart thumping right into the microphone here.
He is an old fart, and he's an old fart that typically before this season probably was going. I mean, you could argue he was going too high, but he was going in the 30s, I want to say.
Oh, man, I know where you're going.
We're down in the 80s looking at him now, and sort of rightfully so. Fred VanVleet.
Yeah, wait a minute. Let me
pull him up. Pull him up there. Yeah.
Here, let's da.
There he is on your
green.
list.
It's green. Yes.
So good luck playing devil's advocate on this one because as I said, years past, he's been going in the 30s, the 40s. A lot of people were down on him last year because he was being drafted in that range, and he
sucked.
He wasn't that good.
He was bad last year.
He was, and this season, you can get him as we see there on your sheet, you can get him in the 80s, you can get him in the 90s. Yes, he's not going to score a lot. Yes, his field goal percentage is pretty bad. He was at, what was he at last year?
It was
God,
38. He was under
38.
38% last year.
That's terrible.
Bad, really bad.
Really bad. Look, I think he'll be better than that. Prior to that, he'd been at 40, 41 and a half, 39, 40. So he probably pushes back up closer to 40, which again is still very bad. But he actually doesn't take that many shots. He's not a high usage player for a point guard. With Kevin Durant there, that takes a lot of the pressure off him. So yes, he's probably only going to get you 14 to 15 points, but the assists, the steals, the free throws, the threes, they're all still there. He's not an elite assist player, so he's not a Trae Young. He's not up in that 9-10 range. He's probably closer to 6.5 maybe. But 3 threes, as I said, very good from the line. If getting a point guard like him at pick 80 is, I don't think there's any risk at all.
I can't play devil's advocate on this one because. So here's the thing. I should probably learn how to play devil's advocate on this one because I got this one wrong last year. I was on Freddie VanVleet last year for season number 9 in a row, however long I've been rolling the Freddie VanVleet bandwagon, and it was a bad one. And so I don't want people to think that I'm just going back to the well, but like you just talked about, he's going so late, it's ridiculous. And Houston, by all accounts, sent out more than they brought back in Jalen Green, who was taking 17, 18 shots a game. Dylan Brooks was taking a dozen shots a game. They signed Dorian Finney-Smith, who doesn't shoot unless he absolutely has to. And they brought in Kevin Durant, who's not going to take 30 shots by himself. He'll probably take 20. So there's stuff out there. And so if anything, Freddie might even be asked to do just the tiniest bit more. But even if he doesn't, I don't care, because last year, in what was by all accounts basically a worst case scenario, he was still top 75 in 9-cat. So terrible, yes, but not this bad. And that's with a career low in field goal percent at, eliminating a rookie, or no one counts the rookie season. He played like 300 total minutes. Career low in field goal percent. Career low in free throw percent last year. Career low, other than by 0.3, basically tied his career low in 3-point percent. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And if the first thought that pops in your head is, oh, maybe he's just getting too old, he's 31. He's not that old. He looks old. It's the beard. And he plays old because we talk about him on an old man show all the time. But he's not actually that old. 31 is like back end of your prime. This is a guy who, just by doing his career stuff, can move from 75 up to 55. That's all you need, is the 4% he lost in free throws and the 2% he lost in field goal. And that'll rising tide everything. It'll lift the points up. It'll lift the threes up. It'll lift the percentages up. You take 3 things that were basically negatives and you move them back towards the midpoint or decrease the negativity of them. And his rank is gonna skyrocket just with that. Now, obviously, the gravy would be if he actually gets an extra shot or assist per game. But I don't even need that to be the case, to be all in on Freddie VanVleet. He was the name that I gave to Matty G, who was hammer texting me last night asking who my guy was for the show you were recording. And I was like, Jakob Pertl and Freddie VanVleet were the 2 names I gave him. And he brought them both on this show. And he was like, it's fine. We're going to go with Freddie VanVleet because I have a brand to uphold. And I think I need to grow a beard to match Fred's this season. I think that's probably why things went wrong last year, is I tried to keep it a little bit tight around the facial hair, and I didn't look enough like Freddie VanVleet. So, or maybe he needs to have another kid and not get any sleep, because I feel like he was really good after he had a kid a couple years ago. All right, Kingy. Yeah, I can't play devil's advocate on that one. You got me in full slurp mode over here on the show. Gross though it may sound, I do love me some Freddie VanVleet. So just to recap, everybody, the names we discussed on today's program: Mark Williams, who has a pre-rank right now of 93. By the way, the ADPs on a lot of these guys are earlier than their pre-ranks because drafts are largely experts going right now. Jakob Pertl, whose pre-rank is 86. He actually moved up a tiny bit on the last Yahoo board after Mark Williams actually went down 2 slots. Modest Bacelis was the 3rd one on the list. He is down here. He was 115. He actually went later on the last redo, down to 121. Asar Thompson, who didn't he go up? Where did he go? No, stayed exactly the same at 106 on pre-rank. It does feel like he's going to catch a little bit of a hype wind. And then Freddie Van Vliet, who actually went down from 87 to 92. So hopefully, as we get more public drafts going, you'll be able to get these guys even closer to the Yahoo markers on your board. Kingy, got some stuff you want to promo besides Stuff It, the show that everybody can get by subscribing here on Old Man Squad or whatever podcasts are found. You're working for like 2 to 3 different places right now, right?
Doing my best. Yeah, like doing it a little bit, obviously here, doing the show. I'll probably start up my FBI show again in the next couple of weeks. It'll just be a weekly show. My player blurbs, my articles over on RotoWire there. Yeah, I was so sick that I didn't nominate myself for any sort of September work. But once October rolls around, I'll have more articles coming out. And that's it, just recording shows and jumping on other shows at stupid o'clock. And yeah, looking forward to drafts. So I'm actually drafting in a mock draft in about 2.5 hours. So that's with Steve St. Pierre, I think, is hosting that one.
The Menace Pod man himself. I got to get my my typical 9-cap mock going here. Last year, I finally switched it over to head-to-head for the first time because I found out by posting shows on YouTube that the Roto contingent is smaller, so they're going to get their own specialty stuff on this channel. Adam King is at Adam King 91 on social media. You can call him Kingy though, but if you search for that, I don't know what's going to come up. These are the 5 kings on today's program. One of them very old and very lovely. Please hit that subscribe button on the way out. I've said it before. I'll say it again. It's how we are able to continue to do stuff over here. It's how we are able to line our pockets with $1 bills. We're like a fantasy YouTube strip joint right here. I'm at Dan Besbris on the socials. Hit the like button. 5 stars are also very helpful. I don't know what the hell show is coming up next. I was going to tell you what's coming up, and I don't even know when these things are airing. So, Kingy, hugs and kisses, my good man. Keep feeling better.
Thank you, sir. I will. It's warming up here. We're starting to get some nice weather. So yeah, it's nice to be outside doing stuff.
He's pulling out of his tailspin, folks. I'm Dan. He's Adam. We out.